at this time. Public participants will state their name, address, and affiliation with the agenda item addressed. Public participation is limited to 5 minutes per person. I ask those present to respect the right of others wishing to speak by refraining from interrupting them. According to Policy 187, citizens are expected to use proper etiquette, decorum, and respect when addressing the board and when in the meeting. Robert's Rules of Order will be followed. Participants are allowed to remove their face masks while providing public participation. And I think I just have one card, or do we have a late entry? Speaking on the public participation would not be considered an agenda item at this time. So then I would move on to Barb Welch. I'd move on to Barb Welch, if you would come forward. And if you'd state your name and address and the topic you are going to, agenda item you wish to address.
Barb Welch, N6905 Pine Lane. I am speaking tonight in regard to agenda items 8.5A and 9.6A. I spoke to you in November about my concern regarding the effects of the events in this country over the last 2 years on our district students. It wasn't just about my child, it's about all of our students. I requested people ask the district students how the last 2 years has affected them. And if you didn't want to ask, to at least take the time to read the book, which I'm bringing again. Living History, Holmen 8th grade students respond to 2020. These essays state so much. But it is staff who now see the effects day to day in our schools. There are students who continue to struggle with emotional regulation and other mental health conditions. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, many mental health conditions first appear in youth and young adults, with 50% of all conditions beginning by age 14. 1 in 6 youth have a mental health condition, like anxiety or depression, but only half receive any mental health services. And school-linked mental health services reduce barriers to youth and families getting needed treatment and supports, especially for communities of color and other underserved communities. Imagine my joy and relief when I found that one of your agenda items tonight is the creation of new positions at every building in this district to address the mental health and emotional health of our students. You listened to the community and staff, and you are taking the steps to address those challenges facing our children. What's more, you are choosing to utilize the FEDER-ESSER funds as to lessen that burden on the taxpayer. You are taking the important step to address the needs of our students in order to assist them with underlying struggles. You are keeping the district's commitment to providing the best education possible for our students. And I thank you for your dedication.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to recognition and thank yous. Dr. Mueller.
Thank you. I have 3 really thank yous this evening that I would like to take time for. One is I would like to thank our Mayo health systems. They have been very generous in donating towards a lot of our social emotional needs in the district, $4,500, and many of you might have saw that. They did do a story on the news about that. Also, just to thank our Holmen Youth Basketball Program, they have donated $1,500 to support a Huddle Statistics program that can be used within our basketball program in our school district, so that was very generous of them to do. And then lastly, the Knights of Columbus do a Tootsie Roll drive each year. And this past year, just recently, they presented a check for $651.28, and this goes to support our Project Live and our Adaptive Sports League program. So we're very thankful for the donations all these organizations have given us in the district. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mueller. I think, again, under recognition and thank yous, we also always hear about organizations in the community that make Holmen the quality community that it is, and we appreciate you bringing this to our attention and to the community's attention. So moving on, reports and discussion. We will start with WIAA co-curricular renewal, Mark Englers.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me back. We are excited to bring back to the board a request to renew our girls hockey co-op agreement. Every 2 years, the WIAA requires activity directors to look at these programs and decide if any changes are needed or if we should renew those co-ops and keep moving forward as we've done in the past. Currently, we have 8 schools involved in this co-op. Girls hockey isn't as large of a driver in this area, so you don't see a lot of girls in each school going out for hockey, but there still is this passion within a small group of students that we'd like to try to address and offer this opportunity. Typically, we have a program that has either in the high teens to the mid-20s involved in the program totally. Holmen generally has somewhere between 1 and 4 athletes be a part of the program. This year we're at the high point. We're at 4 athletes with actually 1 manager as well, so 5 of our students are involved. And so we're looking to ask for this co-op agreement to move forward for the 22-23 school years and the 23-24 school years. Typically, the cost involved for the program per student is somewhere between $1,000 to $2,500, and that certainly is dependent upon the number of athletes involved in that program. So when the participation number is high for all the schools, that spreads the cost out across all the different districts. When that participation is numbered low, of course, that gets more expensive because the ice time is fairly expensive for hockey. So I believe you have that document. I hope you will consider that recommendation to renew that co-op agreement so we can move forward in providing this opportunity for our students.
And this will be on the 24th agenda, on the 24th for passage.
Correct. Thank you.
Any questions?
Really quick, is it for the girls for high school hockey then?
This is for high school hockey, yes.
As they can skate with Onalaska, correct?
Correct. The school districts involved are Holmen, Aquinas, Onalaska, West Salem, Bangor, Central, Logan, and GET. So most of the local school districts have to come together in order to offer this opportunity.
I think I saw this weekend, there was a girls' tournament in the area, though, one of the first ones they've had, so it's kind of a growing sport, and it's nice to be able to offer those options, so.
Yeah.
Do we have to travel, obviously, quite a bit to find opponents?
Yes, because hockey isn't as large, girls' hockey in particular isn't as large in the state of Wisconsin, we do have quite a travel expense in order to have teams to play.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
So as indicated, yes, it will be on the next meeting's agenda for approval. Then, the Holmen Middle School and Viking HVAC bid results. Chad Brandow and Julie Holman, I think, are going to be presenting, or just maybe Chad.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I'd like to share the recommendation to replace the 2 rooftop air conditioners at the middle school and the air-cooled chiller at Viking Elementary. Both have reached the end of their expected life. These units are all 23 to 43 years old. Going to the middle school project specifically, they're going to remove the 2 rooftop air conditioning units and install 2 new air handling units, which will be tied into our existing plan that we have in the school right now for chilled water. So they'll be tying into that plan. And the proposed Viking Elementary project will include replacement of the existing 220-ton air-cooled chiller and a chilled water pump. I got the bid tabulation sheet. I don't know if you have that in front of you right now.
I think
Or-
we had it in our packet.
Okay, you had that. So you received 3 bids for the project. Bernie Buckner Mechanical is the low bidder with a base bid of $303,905, with an alternate bid of $18,160. to replace the existing chilled water pump that is actually inside Viking proper. So that was the total bids for all that. And I'm just here for your recommendation, I guess. This is my first time up here, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
Trying to
You're doing
figure out the
great.
format and everything. I do appreciate your time.
No, you're doing great. I
Yeah.
wanted to let you, wait, this is on this evening's consent agenda, so if you do have any questions,
Yes.
feel free to ask. No, see, you did such a great job, no questions.
I
Thank you
got the
so
first
very
one done.
much.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
we
much. Yeah.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next is anticipated spaces for open enrollment. Jill Mason.
Hello. Okay. So every year in January, we come to the board and we have to talk to you about our open enrollment caps and if we are going to cap any of our grades or any of our special education services. So this year, we used our new APL study that was just done and presented at the board at the last meeting. We used that, and we used the 5-year projection. And then we also use numbers reported as of, and I use the date 12/20. And so as we look through the projections and we look through the current enrollment in seats, we look at the sections that we have. All of our HVA students are included. And one of the things that we found at the end is due to some of our declining enrollment, there's a potential of losing up to 8 sections across the district elementary schools. And so what we would do in relation to that is keep each of our grade levels open for open enrolled students to come in and be present in our school district. The only services that we would cap right now would be special education services involving speech and language, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, because we do not have, those are over capacity. And that is on this slide. So as you can see, like speech and language services, we really should have around 220, and currently we have 268 for our 7 staff members.
I was going to say that's based on staffing.
It's based on staffing, correct. Yep. And so we don't have any spaces. Even though there might be some spaces in some of the schools, we do have to work those things out so they're not overloaded in one or not enough in another. And then our early childhood special education services, we only have 2 seats left. We've had a lot of referrals from birth to 3 and other screenings, which I'll talk about in a little bit as part of the next section. And then again, occupational therapy and physical therapy, we've also seen an increase in the number of referrals in those sections. And currently we're still looking for an FML lay leave, so we are down a little bit of staffing there as well. And then we will leave all of within our buildings, we'll leave all of our special education services open, except for Project Live. We do not have any spaces left in Project Live. That's at their max. In Project Bridge, we have 3, and then Project Search is always a collaboration with other local school districts, so we have enough spaces there. Any questions on our open enrollment
Any questions?
for next year?
So on, like, Project Live, we have open enrolled students in that program now?
We have a couple of students on a 6603 agreement. We typically don't do open enrollment for the students in our transition classes, but we do want to go through this process because we wouldn't want to accept 6603 agreements if we didn't have enough spaces. That's what we're running to a little bit right now, is just making sure that we don't have situations where we don't have options for our students, but we do have for other local students.
That's what I was going to ask. Then
Correct.
our students, we would, if we had more than what
Correct.
we are targeting with our students, we would then have to go out and find additional staffing, because we wouldn't cut our students out
We-
of the.
Correct, correct. And what we'll probably be looking at in the future is, in the past, we've done 6603 agreements, so some of our students stay on for 3 years. We'll probably only be able to do a 1-year agreement with them
because, again, we have kids coming through here, and we wouldn't want to turn away our own students.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And this also is on next meeting's agenda.
Correct.
So any questions? Then, and if you do in between, you can certainly reach out to Dr. Mueller and she'll get those questions to Jill. But thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
The next item is educational options. I've got Kim scheduled to report.
Okay, good evening. Every year at this time, we're required to publish a notice describing all the educational options available to students who reside in the School District of Holmen, as well as provide an update on the district's accountability report. So our district, the instructional services website, has already been updated with all of these pieces, but we will also have this same notice going out in the La Crosse Tribune on January 18th. Students have the right to enroll in any public schools, private schools participating in parental choice programs, charter schools, virtual schools, full-time, open enrollment, youth options, and course options as described by Wisconsin statutes. The listing below are the options available to our School District of Holmen residents. These are all the ones we've had in years past, except new this year is youth apprenticeship. Now, youth apprenticeship is not a new program. We've had it for years and years and years, but it is now required to be listed among our educational options for our students as well. Then below is our accountability report. That's also going out as well, has been updated on our website, and this I reported on in depth last month with our state report card results. So that is the posting that will be going out and has been updated on our website. Any questions about that?
Any questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then the staffing update. Melissa Cates, new positions, and we've got 4 items under that.
All right.
Looks like Jill is coming along.
I am.
Melissa.
Okay, let's see if we can.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the why, and Melissa's going to talk a little bit about the how. So we have been meeting as an admin team to talk a lot about how we are going to use our ESSER dollars. And we've been seeing a lot of the challenges with our students from the pandemic, and we really wanted to get in front of it. So rather than be responsive and constantly responding to behaviors, we really wanted to look at ways to help our students, to help our staff be proactive, give strategies, work through some of the situations, actually having to go back and teach some of the expectations or teach some of the social skills that they've been lacking due to the pandemic. And so we're looking at hiring 6 full-time social emotional learning teachers. The teachers will be doing, again, a lot of front-loading, a lot of proactive work with our students, a lot of work with our staff. Some of the work might be with our families. We might be working on some outreach opportunities. These are new positions, so we're really kind of building these as we see the need. They'll be working alongside our behavior interventionists, our special education teachers, our administrators, our student services team, to really help, again, be proactive with our students and with our staff.
So with these positions, we first, because of what Jill just explained and what they'll be doing, we wanted to first offer these up to staff in our buildings because they know our students best. They know how our day-to-day functions work best in our buildings. So with one of these positions at each building, our administration has put the offer out to staff in their buildings to see who is interested. The expectations vary a little bit by level, so elementary is going to look different than a middle or high school position would. So lots of conversation between the administrators and the staff at those buildings to see what if any interest there is of staff members. So if someone is interested in one of those positions, though, in order to have them fulfill that immediately, we need to fill their position. So if it's a classroom teacher, we need to find another classroom teacher to fill their role before we could move them into this position. So lots of pieces in play right now before we can actually say we have these positions in place. But as you can see as well, these would be funded through June of 2024. So we have 2.5 school years to have these positions in place. which would allow us to hire a permanent replacement for our current staff who may want to fill these roles. If we don't have staff who want to fill those roles, then we will post externally and seek interest outside. With new grads coming up, we find an opportunity there. Otherwise, we'll wait till spring and post for fall if we don't have internal interest.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so are the social emotional learning teachers, is that just going to be working with, is it targeted to the students that need that support, or is it more like coming into a classroom and teaching the whole classroom?
Great question. So we have behavior interventionists, and so those staff members will primarily take on the targeted work. The social emotional learning teachers will be more universal, because we're not just seeing a couple of kids with targeted behaviors, we're really seeing some global needs to come back and really work on social and emotional learning, and what does that mean, and how to talk about and how to cope, and all of those things. So really we'll probably be aligning with our school counselors a lot as well.
Great.
That's not to say they won't have work with some students on targeted skills, but we're hoping that'll be more proactive. Good question.
Other questions?
I do have a question. Out of those 6 positions, do you know how many have been filled already? If teachers have moved into them?
We have interest at some buildings. Other buildings, we don't have interest at the time. And some buildings where there's interest for the fall, but there's not interest right now. They want to finish the year out, and they may be interested to move into that for the fall. So I would say it's a pretty equal mix right now.
Is there a deadline by when we have to use these ESSER funds?
Yeah, June of 2024 is when those all have to be used.
So it's a great question, because some of the buildings are saying if we don't have the right person to fit the position right now, and we have other positions we need to fill, we're going to do that, and then we're going to really kind of work around how this should look in the fall, and we'll post this spring for that position in the fall. Great question.
Because I guess it's more of a comment. I want to commend you on making sure that those positions are filled.
Yes,
knowing
absolutely.
that we're in-
we
don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, so.
No. That would create more
Yeah,
problems.
create a new problem, fix one, create a new one.
Exactly. Others? Other questions? And I would just note, this is on this evening's agenda in order for them to be able to move forward. We've received information on this in our board packets and that sort of thing, so.
Right, so the quick turnaround would be that we're at semester at the end of next week, and it'd be nice to be able to get a replacement, and if we have someone, to fill a full semester, to start off that semester fresh, so.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Then we will move on to our consent agenda
We
items.
still have
We have
more.
more.
Sorry,
We're not done.
Okay.
Sorry, we still have more.
Okay,
We have
Okay.
lofty goals.
We're here for a
I
little
thought we
bit.
were done.
Sorry.
You got
Nope, sorry. Okay, the next one is a school social worker. Currently, we have one school social worker for our whole district, and she works incredibly hard helping to meet the needs of our students, but she is very, very busy. And so with our ESSER funds, we would really like to hire another social worker, primarily focusing on the early childhood 4K and elementary age students. And then our current social worker would be primarily working in the middle school, high school, and our transition programs. And so we would ask for that 1.0 FTE school social worker. We're hoping to get that one hired again right now versus in the fall, but if we have to wait, we have to wait. The goal for the social worker will be really to work with families, provide some resources, get some community connections. Right now, we have a lot of barriers, whether it's housing or food or clothing, or just not understanding how to work through some of the systems and really getting them involved in school. And so this position would also be working closely with our social emotional learning teachers as well. And this would be through 2024 as part of our ESSER funds.
I feel like I missed a really important piece on those social emotional positions as well, is the purpose of getting them filled so quickly right now is because we want to spend time training those staff. We're not just going to have them go in and start doing. There's a lot, if they're a classroom teacher, they may have some of those skills, but not all of those skill sets. So it'll be really important to make sure those people have the resources and the training that is needed to be able to support those students as we wrap up this year and go into a new school year next year, so.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming that there's not any licensed social workers in the district already that couldn't internally be filled?
We do
have
have
one,
licensed social
yeah.
workers
In the district.
in the district.
Yeah.
I think we have one for
At
sure that's a
Access.
school. Yeah, I was
I
gonna
mean,
say.
like, there's not like a teacher who's also a
They're not
social
all
worker,
hanging around,
but-
no.
I think we might have a couple that have the degree,
Okay.
but not necessarily school. There's a different certification you have to have for school social workers. So I've already worked with DPI, and how do we do that if we have someone apply that isn't DPI certified? Great question.
Is this a position that if the need continues beyond the 2 years, given that we're adding just one position, so there's really 2 people for the entire district,
Yeah.
looking down the road, that this would be a full-time permanent?
Yeah, I think all of these, because they're going to be funded through those ESSER dollars that will expire, is once we get to the end of that 23-24 school year, it's really evaluating, okay, where are we at? Do we have this continued need of these positions? And if we do, how are we going to continue to pay for them? What positions are we not going to have? Or where are we going to make cuts so we can keep these critical positions if that's where we find a continued need?
So one thing with social work is I work a lot with our chronic absenteeism committee through the county. And we're always looking for system of care social workers and how to partner together with La Crosse County. I know La Crosse School District already does that. And so that might be a position for us that we can talk about as we use a sustainability factor in this social work position, that potentially 2 years down the road, could we partner with them to help fund it? So those are conversations I'll have as we get going here, but that is an idea.
I know that we also have school psychologists, and we staff that at a higher level than many of our area school districts, correct? We have more per building, or one per, is that where we have one per building?
We have one per building.
And a lot of school districts don't have that in that area, so, yeah. Are there other related positions like those that already exist in the district?
School counselors, so we would have school counselors. I think right now, especially after the pandemic, the system is just bogged down again with, making sure we're proactive for our students with chronic absenteeism, so not waiting until they're truant before we intervene. In this district, we've been really proactive and tried to be a part of the county's initiative to be proactive in that, and it takes more resources on the front end, so hopefully we don't have to tax our district and our community
Right.
in the long
But we
run.
have been proactive in
We have.
having some of those positions in the
Absolutely.
district that other school districts don't have. It's just the need is so much higher,
greater.
elevated.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, next one. We currently have 2 early childhood special education teachers in the district. Again, with the increase in birth to 3 referrals and referrals from just our universal screening, we're finding the need to increase that time. So we would be asking for an increase of half-time early childhood teacher. And then we'd like to pair that with half-time social emotional learning teacher for our 4K. We are finding that some of our students are really struggling in that age group, again, from pandemic-related situations. So we'd really like to have someone in there to provide those positive, proactive, social, emotional learning pieces. And again, 4-year-old kindergarten is all social, emotional learning. So that is our time to really be proactive and help our students to have a great start of their educational career. So we'd like to partner those 2 positions into a 1.0. I'm hoping to take that out of our Fund 27 IDEA and Coordinated Early Intervening Services. So the social emotional learning part, I can take out of the Coordinated Early Intervening Services. You have to use that portion for regular ed initiatives, and then the other part I would take out of our federal flow-through dollars. Any questions on that one? All right. And the last one is our special education educational assistant. We really, again, are seeing a lot of effects of the pandemic on our students who have emotional behavioral disabilities. And so we're looking at the high school level because we're starting some new programming at that level to help our students who are struggling at school kind of work through a repair and a recovery process and then get into an exploration process where they're starting to learn how to cope and be a learner and be in the classroom. And so we really need some assistance right now. We just have one case manager working with our students, and we really need to have an educational assistant that we can train and have them partner with our teacher to help our students. So we're looking at increasing our educational assistance at that level, and again, with our ESSER dollars for a 2-year position. Questions on that one?
Any questions on that?
All right.
And then I think that is.
That's it.
And that is on this evening's consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For questions? Seeing none, then I would move on to the consent agenda. And we have 7 items on the consent agenda this evening. Unless you would like to have one pulled out and considered separately, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Gary, is there a second?
Second.
Rebecca, any discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Then we'll move on to board members' reports and discussion. I'll call on board members in the order of roll call so they can present any comments or committee reports that they might have. I will begin with Rebecca Reber.
Building and grounds met tonight, and we reviewed some policies. So that meeting was tonight. We did do the report here. Thank you.
Happy reading.
Happy reading. I also just want to do a quick shout out. I know there's lots of teacher shortages and some shortages. So if any teachers are stepping up or down to fill a class, or any small classes are switching over, or I don't know, but I appreciate all the teachers being flexible, or even administrative team going into the classrooms. I appreciate that. I know it's a struggle, and I don't think it's going to get any better in the next couple weeks. So everybody stay healthy, and just so you know that all the board members here are thinking about you guys every day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brian Wopat.
I'd like to thank the organizations that donated to our students and their needs tonight. It's great to see the community come together. There's one thing that was on Facebook on December 16th that I want to give a shout out to is Beaver Builder Supply built this really impressive Lego wall at Evergreen Elementary in the library. And I think that's the second one, and I could be wrong, in the district. But what a great way to get students to be tactile while learning in school. For SELC committee, we are working on the foundation basic policy, and just to keep an eye on this, it's going to be coming forward because we're not sure if it should stay policy or not. Where does it actually go? And it's becoming quite lengthy. So just keep that in mind. And then there's also coming up is an anti-bullying and hate speech policy, and it includes some really impressive restorative measures. So just keep that on the forefront. And then I'd like to wish the high school students best of luck next week on finals and as they finish up first semester.
All right, thank you, Brian. Emily Zach.
Yeah, I've been gone a couple meetings. I got my wisdom teeth out and all that fun stuff. So while I've been gone, there's been Bi-State and the Clash at the Lacrosse Center. So we've been doing a lot of stuff with wrestling and signs in the bathroom with washing your hands is the best way to protect you from COVID-19, which is awesome. And then a bunch of other wrestling competitions where there's no mask requirements and almost nobody's wearing them because when they're not enforced, nobody wears them really. And rumor has it that cloth masks don't really work anymore, and that's all they distribute at the high school when you forget one, which is just what the articles say these days, that the cloth masks don't work anymore against the Omicron. So I don't know if that's why the cases are so high right now or what, because we're still required to wear them, but we have like 100 something right now. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I guess that's all.
Okay, Emily, thank you. Jennifer Deek.
Yeah, just a shout out to all of our staff, whether you're a teacher, a EA, administrator, custodian. I'm looking at the dashboard right now, there's 121 cases in the district. And I realize how stretched thin everybody is and how hard everybody is working to keep us from, I guess, not going to virtual. So I really appreciate everybody out there, and I know you're working hard, I know you're stretched thin, and just, really appreciate everything you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Gary Dunlap.
Yeah, I too would just like to thank the staff for all the hard work they've been doing. It has to be a struggle right now, I'm sure. I want everybody to make sure everybody gets out there and gets their vaccinations if they haven't got them. If they do have them, make sure they get their boosters. It might save their life. I know it seems like the Omicron is a lot less severe if you have your full boosters or you're up to date. And last but not least, I'm sure glad that 2021 is over with. And I hope 2022 is a heck of a lot better than 21 was.
Thank you, Gary. Chris Lau.
We've not had a policy and governance meeting for a while. I think our next one's scheduled for February. And then I will be attending the state school board convention next week. I think I'm the only, maybe Anita's going as well, so I will have a brief summary of some of the breakout sessions and keynotes that I attend on our meeting on the 24th.
And I think they just announced a virtual option for attendance, if I'm not mistaken. There was something that came out. So if you aren't registered or if you're considering not going because of the high numbers, certainly there are some options. I believe that something just came out on that. So
Okay.
be aware of that. So thank you, Chris. Yeah, I would like to note that the high school alone has 5% of its students out. 9.6% of our total student population is out, and that's only COVID. I keep hearing about influenza A and croup and other things. Mono, I heard for a while too, was a big issue. According to our dashboard, 18 staff are affected and out. However, I know that one day last week there were over 70 staff members that weren't in the buildings. 70 is a lot. 18 doesn't look like much, but 70 is a lot. And I know, as people have mentioned, that our staff are pitching in and they are doing things on their prep time. Classes are being combined. I know 1 or 2 days, this administrative building, every person in this building, almost every person in this building was in a classroom helping out. And so we know that people are pitching in and doing what they can. And so I would just ask that the community do the same, that when they come into our buildings, that they are mindful of the mitigations and they do wear the masks appropriately according to what the CDC and the health experts are recommending. So that those folks, out of respect for those folks, our staff who are going the extra mile for us, please do that, because that's the least we can do in order to keep our students in person, which is what we all want. And I know Dr. Mueller has shared, our goal is to keep students in person, and you've seen some steps we're taking. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for staffing to respond and to make things better for our students when they are here, because it's not just, their day isn't just in the buildings, their day is at home and in the community and those kind of things. And they continue to get such mixed messages, and I think we want to make sure that people are just mindful and compassionate and do the best that they can to show respect for our staff. I would like to say, I was going to do a congratulations on Bi-State and the other, but Emily, I think the girls wrestling team did quite well as well. Didn't you, were you a champion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations. You didn't mention that, and I wanted to mention that I did take note of that, and congratulations. I believe you and another Holmen student.
Jada Harshman, yeah.
Were
placed third as a whole team.
As a whole team, we
There were
placed
like
third.
25 or 26.
Awesome. Oh, I didn't know there were that many, but that's
Yeah.
awesome. So kind of like the hockey, you know, women's, girls wrestling is a new sport, and it's awesome to see how well people are doing, and I just wanted to note that as well. So I think that's all that I have under comments and discussion. Oh, Brian brought up the thing about the SALT committee, and it's the board, the student learner goals that we're really talking about. We have, student learner goals are part of our foundations. We also have our vision statement and our mission statement and those kind of things. And not a lot of other school districts have student learner goals. So the discussion has been, well, do we need to have them? Because we put them on curriculum things, and we want to update them and keep them up to date, or are we okay doing away with them? And so the discussion has gone back and forth. Well, so what if it's unique? We like to be unique, and these are things that we like to, you know, to encourage our students to have. So take a look at those. Take a look at that policy, and, you know, if you like those things, then we'll keep them. And then we will make some adjustments. That's where he talked about where they can get lengthy, is because we have received some feedback. And we could make those a lot longer than what they currently are, but, you know, for the brevity of things, I think Jennifer would tell you also, we continue to have that discussion. Or if you think, well, we just can keep them within the curriculum guidance and guidelines, then we can do that too. But we don't want to spend a lot of time on developing something if the board doesn't think we need them anymore, I guess is the point we're trying to get at. So is that?
Or have them for both purposes. We were talking about that too.
Yes.
You know, keep it policy and maybe, you know, put it on our webpage.
Maybe we just need to pay more attention to them. Wouldn't you say that was, Brian, part of the
Yeah.
discussion?
Yes, it was where do they truly belong? Is
Yeah.
it the academic standards, or do we just put it on the website?
Yeah. And they were developed before there were academic standards that were approved by the state. So that's part of it, is that there are specific academic standards. A lot of those lean towards those, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, then, let's see, the next items. You've received the written reports for the board committees. The board meeting schedule, the next, state convention is the 18th to the 21st. We have a meeting on the 24th, and then also on February 14th. I know, Valentine's Day, such as it is. Tonight, we will do the election verification of candidacy and ballot order. I know, Stacy, are you prepared to have us draw names? Gary has them. So this is the order, Emily, if you want to pull out and read out loud the first person to be on the ballot.
Josh Newman.
Okay, the second person?
Rebecca Reber.
Okay, the third person?
Oh, there's only two left.
Any, meeny.
Barbara Welch.
Okay, and if you want to pull out, just to make sure, the last one should be Chad Updike.
Chad Updike.
Okay, so that would be the order for the ballots and how they would be printed then. And then I would just note WASB resolutions. You probably received, I think whoever is our representative received a number of resolutions that are going to be voted on. And as a board, we have just always directed them to vote as they believed that the district would want them to. In prior years, we've kind of tied the hands of people and said, vote yes on this or no on this, and then you come to the convention and then something comes up. And we've said they should vote that way, and they have to, even though something has changed to maybe make it more sense to vote the other way. So that's just on there unless there is if anyone has any concerns about the resolutions. I know WASB sends those, so. Okay, seeing none, then I would ask, Rebecca, would you read the closed session motion, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby moves to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.8, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, in this case, discussion of bids received for the sale of district property at W7908 County Highway Z, Lawrence, Wisconsin.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and then we would take a roll call vote. Stacy, would you call the roll? And you would either respond yes or no.
Rebecca Reber,
Here.
Brian Wolpat,
Yes.
Emily Zach, whoops, never mind, sorry. Jennifer Deek,
Here.
Gary Dunlap,
Yep.
Cheryl Hancock,
Yes.
and Anita's not here,